Hello, everyone, and welcome to BlueCallom's first online event in 2024. As you may know, in today's webinar topic, you will learn everything about commercial prompt engineering. So let's all dive deep into the next level of high-performance prompts for generative AI business applications. I am Tanya, and I will be your host today. Before we begin officially, and I hand this session over to today's presenters, let me just go through some housekeeping items. Please share with us all your questions and comments via the Q&A box, and we will do our best to answer all of them at the end of this session. I would also like to say if you encounter any technical issues during the webinar, please let me know and I'll do my best to help and try to solve the problem. And with that saying, now it's time to introduce our speakers. First one is Axel Schulte. Axel is the CEO of BlueCallom, and he's also the chairman of the World Innovations Forum. Axel founded two highly innovative multi-billion-dollar companies, and he also founded the first digital stock exchange in 1997. He initially also helped young startups with Accelerator develop innovative businesses, and then that happened with the World Innovations Forum. And now, with the BlueCallom, we are focusing on transformation with generative AI. Our second speaker is Christian V. Christian joined BlueCallom last year, and his role is to lead BlueCallom product directions and strategy. Christian was Director of Innovation at the Johnson & Johnson, and in his rich career, he gained experience in innovation management, business development, risk management, and also in project management. Christian is a CEO of a biotechnology company, T Oncology. With that saying, welcome Axel, welcome Christian, and please show us what you have prepared for our audience today. The stage is yours.
Thank you,
All right, thank you very much.
And welcome, everybody.
Okay. So there seems to be some sort of... Okay, here we go. So maybe just real quick and, again, also from my side, a welcome to the session today. I'm actually excited because I realized we had people, at least from the registration side, we had people even from Australia, from Vietnam, and Europe and the US. So for some people, it's actually kind of a terrible time. So I'm almost honored, I have to say, to have you here. A quick rundown so that you can sort of navigate a bit what we actually do and why we do things like what we do. We have Tanya. Okay, we built a technology for prompt development originally, and I would say I know some of you know us now for a while. We built one of the probably most powerful innovation management solutions on AI, and in order to do this, we needed to build about 112 prompts, where we get basically the questions and the answers and research and everything you need to do in one of these mega projects. And late last year, we decided to actually make this available to everybody because the prompt development engine became extremely powerful, I have to say. You wouldn't see everything what it can do today because we're basically transitioning towards that. But we can basically develop, or you can develop, you can test, and you can deploy the AI software. And there's a software platform where you can actually then offer your prompts, and that's sort of in a nutshell what it is. But you can imagine that these prompts that we built the so-called GPTBlue for it, for these mega applications, can get pretty sophisticated. So our focus is today on building the best possible prompt application development environment. That's sort of the headline of also BlueCallom for the future. And our purpose is basically to make the power of AI available to everybody. And this is when we start already. I mean, I think we can, many of you would agree that AI may most likely become the most significant innovation of mankind and or humankind. And we see a little bit of it today, but we will see, I mean, massive development in the next 5 years. Okay, and so let's move on. So today we call these things that we're developing prompts, but tomorrow it will be entire applications. And I can say that because this is actually our background. And when we built this first innovation management application, it was initially built as a general software application. This was even before we had access to GPT-3. We actually worked with GPT-2, and this was a very different, a very painful process, I have to say. And but we're seeing that horizon that a large language model, which today has, I mean, at least from OpenAI, about 1.7 trillion parameters. And 1.7 trillion parameters means 1.7 trillion connections that is codified. So a crane, for instance, has a little code, and a house has a little code, and a landscape has a little code. And these are just bits and bytes. And the connection between a crane and a landscape and a house is basically one of these parameters. But it could also be a crane and a ship and a shipyard. And so, so this massive knowledge of the internet is basically the human knowledge that we have so far, with the exception of some people who protect their knowledge for whatever reason, maybe meaningful or not, really doesn't matter. But that is the world we are living in. And if we have access to basically the knowledge that we developed, means we have a gigantic repository of information access. We do this today with prompts. And so we have one question, and then we send it back, and then we get hopefully an intelligent answer. Now we will talk about today what we can do to make this intelligent answer really even better, but also you will become or get the imagination how we can go forward for the next, I would say 2 years. And those of you who want to become professional prompt developer, which is sort of the equivalent of the old software developer, you may see that there is a future for us that most of us just even can't imagine. But when you've done what we've done, you probably get a bit better picture. And this is why we call it also commercializing prompts or prompt development and the whole AI prompt engineering world, because this is the future of software development. Okay, and let's dive into the first section. So we talk about high performance prompt evolution, and we will talk a little bit about where we go there, a bit about the structure so that you can put it in a context of, so where's the AI and what is the prompt and where is everything, and a little bit about prompt categories. Today we have prompts, but we have actually pretty sophisticated prompts already. We also talk about a new UI for AI. And just real quick, I mean, when you imagine a CRM system or an ERP system or some sort of accounting system or any kind of business system, the screen is basically dominated and full of little fields where you input data. And this is, I mean, it became so second nature to us that we can almost not imagine that this can be completely different. And we'll show you a way this is possible. And then last but not least, a little bit about Neuro AI Fusion, because one thing that we have to already probably understood or we have to understand it, is that the prompt is basically the connection between the AI and the human being. And there's a couple of very interesting things. Okay. So talking about the structure, I mean, when so that you can put it into context, the people that are working on ChatGPT, and I believe that all of you have been probably working with ChatGPT already. It's the thing since what was it, November 30th year before last, and you know that you can put in text and you get something out of it. Now, what we did, and this was actually already more than 2 years ago, before ChatGPT was arising. We use basically down here where it says OpenAI, and there's an API. Today, 1.7 trillion parameters. So this is the GPT-4 of today. We use the API and basically build BlueCallom on top of API and basically on top of OpenAI. And one of the triggers was way back in time when Sam Altman said, you know, there is a situation where the how to say that, where the AI system will become basically an operating system, and what they are looking for is partners who build software on top of the AI. And this is what we did very early on. I was actually on GPT-2. It was still, I mean, coding interface. There was some language, but there was always code in between. Probably the most popular is the, too long to read and so on. So on top of this interface, there's a couple things that you see on this chart. There's on the left side, this is basically GPTBlue. There is the prompt framing, architecture, and analytics. And prompts were created in this box, whether it is GPTBlue or whether it is the GPTs from OpenAI or whether it's basically our previous structure. On top of that is a GPTBlue designer. This is basically the user interface for the designer. And then on the very top is GPTBlue IO. This is what the user does. Now, here's already an interesting difference between the designer and the user. In our world, I mean, in our common new world, there will be prompt designers who develop sophisticated prompts and people who execute the prompts. It's no longer, do you just type in something? Do we not share the window correctly? Paul sends messages that's confusing where we are.
Possibly it's some background noise makes me large at moments, so I mute myself while you speak.
Okay. So everybody has a different view. Okay, sorry about that, but thanks for the feedback. So again, the IO basically is the part. Not on my side. Okay, yeah, not on my side either. Sorry about that. So again, the IO part is somebody who uses a prompt, and unlike in the today's world of ChatGPT, where it's really a chat, so you type something in and the chatbot basically comes back. And this is why I put this on the screen here too. I don't know whether you actually see my mouse when I hover over the screen. Probably not, because I'm not sharing it. Is that right? Okay. Sorry, can you go back? When you see on the left-hand side chat GPT from OpenAI, ChatGPT is actually an application that sits on top of this gigantic large language model. And this is where you interact with. And this is also where we interact with, but in two different types. One interaction is building prompts for others, and the other part is using the prompt that somebody built. Because the prompts get more and more sophisticated, and I will talk to it in a second, but I want you to kind of see the architecture, how this is actually working. And then on the very top, you see AI Glass. This is the new UI. You will be the first seeing it. I think everybody within the company actually saw it, but nobody else. So this is kind of a premium bonus in this webinar. Okay, Tanya? So what we want to start with is what is the biggest debate around generative AI is productivity. So one of the arguments, and this started not only with OpenAI, but everybody who has been moving in this field realized that if these prompts, which are simple as, do this, do that, if they are structured very well, they can do complete research, which people would take hours or days or weeks even in 10 seconds. They could create plans for a marketing plan, a business plan, an action plan, campaign plan, a product rollout plan, a product management plan, a financial plan within seconds. We would take hours and hours and hours. And so it was relatively clear for those who were deep into this. They said, well, the single biggest advantage of generative AI is actually helping teams to be more productive. Now, there's immediately the social parts that, more productive, that means they need to work more and so on. No. And I think we need to be all in agreement when we understand what we can do, that the productivity, and this is, we see it in our own team. I mean, people get things done much quicker. And there was the saying, I started kind of almost over a year ago, where I said, well, you know what? The productivity comes from you do things that are painful, before, and you do it now with AI much faster. And it's not that AI replaces people. People who are using it will replace others who don't. And I think this saying is this, wandered across the planet almost. And that's the core. And this is something we want to start with first. So productivity means, and I cannot really draw it. Maybe somebody will help me one day to draw it. But productivity is that when you do something painfully long and you've done multiple times, because financial plans will be done every year and it will change because the input data change, new markets, new customers, new products, and so on and so forth. But if you have sort of something that does this with all the knowledge of the internet instantaneously, that's an enormous productivity gain. And putting these things together is actually, how to say that, it's something that I don't want to say hate to do. Some people say, no, it's fun, but it's just not productive to look for the same thing over and over again. I mean, I believe I've done enough business plans in my life, but still, before AI, I also looked back into the web and said, okay, so how business plans are done today? How are others doing it? What kind of things can I learn from them? And basically start all over. Now, today I say, okay, I want a business plan about this and this and that, and these are the parameters, and this is the environment, and so on and so forth. And this thing comes back within 10 seconds. So that's an enormous gain over me looking and searching and reviewing, and basically an hour or 2 hours later, I have it. Okay? So this is meant with productivity. Tanya? So here is what we did for several activities, whether it is research or idea creation or validating in pretty much anything or building something. I mean, even the construction part, so not just software, but maybe physical hardware, other constructions and so on, and the ROI to get somewhere of large projects. Innovation is a large project. Transformation is a large project. Designing or redesigning a city landscape is a huge project. And the ROI comes back 10 years later, and now we're 2 years. And if I start at the beginning, I mean, a larger research for large projects may have easily consumed 3 months. This can be done in 5 days. And obviously, the AI would do it in 10 times 10 seconds, so it would be all done right away. But there's still some considerations of us humans to say what we actually want. And I will come back to what we actually want many times in this presentation, because what we need to also realize, AI is a clever thing. It was still built by humans, by our mental capacity and by our ingenuity. And we need to communicate to the AI system what we actually want. So prompt design is not something the AI needs to work better. Prompt design is something that our brain needs to actually articulate better to the AI what it needs to do. People said, oh, prompts, this will go away. AI will be so smart that we don't need prompts anymore. And I had many discussions like that. And we wouldn't put basically our company in this direction if we would not understand how it works. So for those of you who don't know us, we have been working for over 3 years on neuroscience to understand how the brain actually composes ideas, structures, problems, and how to reiterate basically through all kinds of situations to get to these ideas and so forth. So our disability to articulate complex things is the biggest problem of humankind. And the AI need to understand exactly what you want in order to give you what you need. And so the prompts are actually for us to articulate better. Now, why do we have this disability? We're so smart. And there's a very stunning and surprising and almost shocking realization. For the longest time, our language was protected. I mean, like the Holy Grail. This was a good thing because the language over the last 12,000 years, and you will be surprised, yes, 12,000 years, we didn't really have a strong language like today before that. Our frontal lobe here, the part of the brain, has evolved 12,000 years ago with language. And we protected this language so that we can say, okay, whenever you say measure, we know what measuring is. Whenever you say productivity, we all know what or most of us, what productivity is. A gain of one or the other. We all know what that means. And then the sentence, we all know what that sentence means. Now we protected the language for eons, still today, that we can understand. It was never a need to tell you how a piano sounds. Our inability is to tell somebody how a piano sounds. Isn't that crazy? No, because we protected the language so much, and this wasn't in, and so we don't really work on this. Somebody says, "Okay, this is a blah," and everybody knows what a blah is. And so when we go through the productivity gain, it's basically the gain that we create through the prompts in the connection to the AI, that we articulate exactly what we want, that we get it back in 10 seconds. And we have seen this in our life in BlueCallom's life for the last year, that we could do things that were, for most people, unbelievable that this is even possible. All right, so much about productivity gain. So I also talked about prompt categories, and we have basically 2 major groups. One is high productivity prompts that are basically geared towards productivity. This is the biggest opportunity for all of us, building prompts that are so cool that the AI system knows so much about what we actually really want, that it comes back in 10 seconds rather than us going back and forth through a chat system until we'll believe this is kind of interesting and then either give up or work a little bit more until we get there. And still, if we would work an hour with a prompt back and forth on a GPT system until we have it, compared to a week of research, that would still be a major gain. But we thought, why should we? I mean, people give up within this hour because they said, this thing is crap. I do it my old way. So productivity prompt is a category, and then there are other especially high performance prompts. So a high performance prompt is something that performs highly better than just having a prompt. And so one of this is what we call a conditional prompt. And we had to invent this conditional prompt because when we have a little bit more complex research to be done, then the prompt should actually not only say, okay, here's the result, but it should possibly say, here are 3 results, or this result is very good. This result is excellent. This result is not so good. Because sometimes not so good results are still either very inspiring, they may be still super helpful. And so, but if we understand that the system can actually help us to make that decision so that we can think through some things that may not be the number one and the only result, that's a helpful thing. You see it on our website when you type in, there's a bar saying, okay, what are you innovating today, or what kind of idea you want to create today, or what kind of problem you want to solve, and then you type something in, and it's about disruptive ideas, and it comes back and says, well, this is a good idea, or this is not a good idea to solve with BlueCallom, or this is actually an excellent idea. And when you see an excellent idea, then the prompt is actually designed with this conditional prompt to analyze for whatever task it was designed, whether the return gets into a range where it should be or must be a disruptive thing. But this was only for the question of what disruption do you want to do today? If you answer something completely different, the prompt would probably, you may be lucky the prompt is still something okay, but this is not what it's built for. And I say that because this is another thing we learned, that prompts, particular high performance prompts, need to be very specific towards a specific task or a specific problem, or something that you really specifically want, and you get a very good prompt back, basically a very good result back from it. There's another prompt type that we developed, and we call this iterative prompts. So prompts can do, it's almost like quantum physics. It can do 2 things at the same time. Not quite, because we need to absorb it, but it is something that it may tell you what to do or how to structure a plan. Then you can edit the plan, and then you can let it review, and it's still all the same thing. And in the background, we put it back to the AI system, coming back, and then you can edit the result, which you can't do on any other system today. But the interesting thing about editing what you get back is that you don't have, particularly if this is a long prompt, if you don't have to rewrite it or cut and paste and then edit it and then hope that you caught it all up, because the prompt in the background takes care of the fact that you still have a very clear goal that you don't want to change unless you want to change it. And so these iterative prompts were an interesting thing. We developed so-called integrated prompts. So this is when you're running a prompt that triggers, for instance, a custom function. And you heard from OpenAI that there's a cool thing called custom function. And custom function is basically where the function is no longer AI, but actually a Python written code. And that code does something that AI cannot do as well as you can do. And particularly, you can run your own code that you don't want to be part of the AI environment. And so this function call is when you own basically everything, the whole infrastructure, then you write a function and you add it basically to your backend system, and then you still run the code the prompt that leverages this function. But for many prompt engineers, this is a difficult and actually a painful task because you either don't have the infrastructure in front of you. Assume you're a larger company, you sit in an office in Ireland, the headquarters in Munich, for instance, and now you don't have access to the IT system, and people say, no, I don't want to give it to you. And so what we did is, and this must be enabled by the company, because if they don't want it, then obviously it's not possible. But when they say, hey, this is very cool, and we had that feedback, actually, it was grown out of a requirement from a larger company. So the prompt engineer can upload a code, a Python code, for instance, to send an email out of the prompt or the prompt result to somebody in a certain group that you can define even in the prompt. So it takes functions back and forth. And these function calls, this becomes then almost infinite in variety, because then we're back to classic software code. But the accessibility is the key here. A similar thing is when you run custom data, and probably you or your customers already ask you, oh, can we use our custom data? Yes, you can. You kind of upload it into the GPT environment, and you can fine tune it, or you can make some function, some polishing to it, or you write, maybe if you can't do that, you write actually again some code for a database that you don't have access to. So this is a little bit complicated. And so what we did is basically we offer within the BlueCallom environment a custom data space where people can, when they join, they can upload data to that space, and then depending on what you want to do, trim it or not, and then a prompt can use that space to actually merge data into the question complex and use basically both the custom data and the data from the core AI system, from the large language model. And finally, and this is new and it's not quite ready yet, but this is coming very soon, is prompt embeds. Do you want to jump in or no? Okay. Prompt embeds is basically running prompts supporting edge computing. Now, edge computing, for those who don't know really, is that you have on the edge of your network where you have the browser, you have basically today capacity and you have functions that are very powerful to execute stuff on the edge, meaning on that browser, that the user doesn't know about anything, but can activate or can do things immediately. There are a couple techniques to do that, but like if you have a change on your screen and you want another field to be changed right away, so we had this thing called Ajax in the past, but that is a new technique called React, that reacts on certain activities and changes the things right on the front. Now this is not part of a prompt, so we said, okay, how can we use the prompt mechanism to actually also drive edge functions or React functions? And so we found a way to actually embed in the stream of the prompt to the end user ways to make this more pleasant or more functional or more powerful and so on. What I want to tell you is basically the beginning of something that you will see down the road, that prompts will get way more sophisticated, way more powerful. We're talking about clusters and hyper clusters of prompts to build applications and so on. But one thing I want to make clear is, at least we believe so, I have to say, nobody knows really what the future is, but we wholeheartedly believe that prompts as the connection between a system and a brain and back and forth will not go away. And there is no, AI systems, I mean, particular GPT-4, Turbo, and so we have sort of a little insight what 5 will be. I mean, they're so extremely powerful that they could actually do things that, that a prompt is not needed anymore. Absolutely. But it's our brain that need to articulate what we need. And if there is a way, and this will be another part pretty soon, that actually the prompt person and the AI connects in a way that the AI can even help you right away within the prompt, but it's still a prompt that you need to do something special to make it work for you. All right. And I think we have a, thanks, Tanya.
And I just added a slide, Axel, to show people really what it means when you do this to perfection. Probably 7-8 years ago, there was a big uproar when the first AI was able to beat a human in Go, this Asian game. I mean, everybody understood how machines were able to beat chess players because it's fairly simplistic. But having an additional element, how humans think, like in the Go game, was not thought to be possible to overcome with a machine. And actually, the company was DeepMind, who was able to do that. And the very same company was asking themselves, so what other tasks are out there which are hard to understand and hard to determine? And that was then driving the development of AlphaFold. And today we have AlphaFold 2. And what that program is doing is it takes proteins. Proteins are fairly complex molecules built by amino acids. There are 20 essential amino acids everybody of us has in his or her body. And they determine how we live, how our body works across all functions you ever can think of. There's only one huge challenge. This chain of amino acids, it's not a line, it's not straight. It is a very complex three-dimensional structure, which 25, 30 years ago, humans didn't even understand that it's three-dimensional. And with the development of more technologies, we were able, in the last 25 years, to identify about 800,000 of these structures across the world, all scientists. And that's now where AlphaFold 2 comes in, taking all these specialized high-performance prompt data and bringing it to one place. And they drive now an open source database, which is filling, and they believe in 1 year, they can add 100 million, nearly every known protein structure on the planet Earth, into that database and make it available for scientists. That means in 1 year, we are doing 100-fold of the outcome what before was in 25 years. So Axel talked about productivity before. So you can imagine in this very complex world what that means. What it actually means is now scientists can ask very different questions. And I think people shouldn't really be afraid of the support of AI making us faster and better, because now you can use your brain to ask the next set of questions. How can I address that to cure illnesses that are not yet understood, to understand how certain illnesses even start to happen? Because curing an illness is one way to help people, but to intervene on the way to become ill is even much more powerful. So these are the questions being enabled. And I think it was McKinsey who believes that the productivity gain through generative AI can be somewhere in the ballpark number of $4 trillion. But that doesn't account for the capability of human minds being relieved from troublesome, repetitive work and focus on completely new problems and solutions. I think there is even a factor X to that 4 trillion. And I mean, these numbers might be very big and hard to understand, but 4 trillion is about the size of the economy of Great Britain. So that can be added into the game just through the productivity gain, not even considering what could come from the additional innovation created through human brains, augmented by the artificial generative AI. So just a small input on this place, Axel. So hope that was interesting for everyone.
Super. Thank you so much, Christian. It was even interesting for me because I didn't know that at all. And this shows you a little bit. So we're sitting basically next door to each other, and we're running at such a high speed in the company. Obviously, we're a small company, so we can. Okay, that's really mind blowing, and really thanks for putting this together. This is very cool. You said something also very interesting. Is that it's not that we're no longer thinking. I mean, there's all these fears that AI will blow us away, AI will control the world, AI will make us dumb, and so on. And clearly, as long as we don't really know what's going on, we have these fears. I mean, that's a human character for probably since we were Homo 5 million years ago, Homo sapiens 375,000 years ago. And I think that nature kind of picked the human structure as its best guess to leave the planet before it is destroyed, and probably not by us. I mean, we know there is another asteroid coming. We know it's flying by, but if it would hit us, we would all vanish away. It would be the sixth mass extinction. I want to say that. I mean, very clearly, 5 were already done, and we don't want to be the 6th. And if we can evacuate Earth, I mean, we need to build massive projects and run pretty fast. So there's a lot to do, which is still simply survival. Thank you. Okay, Tanya? So let's talk about another thing that is coming around AI. And I mentioned before, so with AI, we have no longer massive forms and things we need to put together in order to make something work. We have typically 1 or 2 or 3 fields. But what we also realized in our work, I mean, we're doing this now for almost 3 years, that whenever we have less and less content, it could be super slick, and we enjoyed that. But we also realized, well, the slickness doesn't even attempt to stimulate us for something else. But if we can do like analytics on the same page, that would stimulate us possibly when we see real time we need to do more or less, or want to do something different, or need to get inspired. So that's good to do that. We could do intelligence into the page relative to the outcome by simply showing a user, that this is very cool or not so much, and you can do this and you can do that, you can rate it and rank it and so on. If we remind ourselves on social media, we have so many likes and comments and shares and reviews and downloads and so on. But we have it only there. We don't have it in our business environment. And the question is why? I mean, some people may argue, this is just playing around. This is nonsense. People should work. Okay, but should we really work? I mean, is this the purpose of our intelligence? Well, intelligence is something that needs to get stimulated. And every human is intelligent. Every human is creative. We'll just make it that they're not so creative anymore and don't think, oh, here, over there. No, you should work. This is what we want from you. But this is not intelligent. This is also not intelligent to think that this would be an effective, productive company. It would be super effective and super productive if everybody can use their intelligence. So there's a couple things we can do now with a new UI that I'll show you just a couple things in a second. There are other things like, we have all these navigations, and we were thinking if we can get rid of that. And since we have a pay-per-use model, we also need to see, what the usage is and how much we spend already, and so on. And I mean, to sum it all up, I mean, still, GPTBlue prompts are providing productivity gain, and this is something that we were focusing on also on the UI, productivity gain. Because if we gain in productivity, and I mean, nobody could say it better than Christian before, I mean, this is not just 1 or 2 or 5 or 10-fold. There is an amazing potential. I mean, probably more than anything we did. And there's people who say, the Industrial Revolution is peanuts compared to what AI does. Other people say, come on, give me a break. It's a bit of a software, it still runs on a CPU. What can you do so much better than everything else we did? Yeah, argument taken too. So we will see, but we see already that there's so much shift and change. And so we try to do this in a little bit different UI that we had before. And you will see, I'll show you a couple screens. Okay. So here's basically our new homepage, and you may or may not see it, but these are all glass elements. They're on the right-hand side, full of analytics, what the analytics of the exchange, the analytics of the prompts and so on, and of the users and so on. And in the middle are basically all the prompts that you can basically take, and on the left-hand side, your profile and a couple functions or a couple applications that you can use. Now, there's a couple things that's interesting. So we're working with not only with the UI on the UI side, but also on the UX side, so the user experience. And one of the things I learned is that a user, and I didn't actually know that before, a user is learning, the user's brain is learning very quickly, right when they start and they like something, what is the way to actually navigate, and we're back to navigation, what is the way to navigate one of these applications? Now, this is where the big bar on the top with all the menus came in, and everybody needs to go back there. But what we're doing is we're trying to do what the car industry did, the display that you have in the front shield. So, and I have one of these cars, and I'm actually never looking down to the dashboard because I have everything in my display. Now, when you look at the thing, and you will notice a couple of things maybe, on the lower left-hand side is always, the very left is a button, which is a feedback back to, in this case, the provider, us. So you can always give us feedback, and we have not only one feedback button, but every glass element has a feedback button. So in the background, you don't need to say, it's there, or how do I explain that? No, you just click and say, well, this is not working. We then know on which glass you are. And so this is one part why we have these glasses. Originally, it wasn't really a glass, it was something else, but so we know exactly where you are, and we understand in which frame you are actually working. The next is a help button for you, and then the next is maybe a settings button and so on. Always on the left-hand side, lower left-hand side, is system-related things. On the upper right-hand side is always something that goes out. So like I share it, I like it, I share it with let everybody know, what's going on and so forth. And there's still, other than here where you select your application, the only way to switch back home and log out and so on is always on your profile side, because this is about you. I want to go there. I want to exit. I want to log in, log out, and so forth. Can I go the next? So the next is basically the prompt object designer. So this is basically where you develop prompts, and you find immediately the same structure of UI. Again, no navigation, not needed anymore, because depending on where you are and what you're focusing on, you see the navigational help there, or you go back to home and then start something else. On the left-hand side, those who have played with GPTs, the custom chatbot building from OpenAI, know a little bit about what we did. On the left-hand side, we basically have the most essential questions or aspects of a prompt. So one critical question that you should have in every prompt is, what is actually the correct character of the AI that emulates sort of a position in order to search for something. So if you say, okay, act as a top scientist, what this large language model does, this gigantic, database, it's not really a database, it's a multidimensional structure. But what it does is it knows immediately if you say act as an scientist, it looks immediately to structures within that connection database, which has to do with science. It would not look for anything that is a cooking recipe. It would not look for automobiles unless it has something to do with science and so forth. So you give that information, and you'll give all kinds of information to the prompt. And if you then later test it and then find out, well, this doesn't really work quite the way I want, you can go to that point where you believe you need to give more information, or maybe you're over-informed. I mean, there's also for an AI, there's an information overflow, and we realize this. Christian is nodding because we pump sometimes stuff into this because we hope that the more the better. Nope, not more better. But also small is beautiful, also not. So we need to find a middle way to find everything that is relevant for providing the answer and leave everything else out. And that's a difficult part. So you can, after you have it completed and tested, and you'll find it's not quite good for my employees or for the people I want to sell the prompt to, you fine tune it until, you say, okay, this blows everybody out of the water. And so there's one process that I can share. So we worked with a large bank, and that large bank had some structural, deficiencies, maybe is a good word. We were invited, and that was something for us, even a novelty. We were invited to a board meeting with all C-level executives to get sort of what we can do in order to make really leap forward. And so we developed all kinds of stuff. So Christian, I think you developed 8 different prompts for different situations and so on. And then at the very end, we came to a conclusion that we could answer the question with a single prompt. So, but what we didn't have at that stage, a testing environment. So whenever we made changes, boom, then we realized, okay, this is better. Oh, this is even better. Oh, this is even better. And the next one was, rats, this didn't work at all. So the 2 prompts before was actually the best. But because we edited it at that stage, boom, gone. And we could not replicate it. And so we got really crazy. So we said, we have to have not just a history of, how many prompts we did and so on, but everything from every step within that prompt, what has changed with every submit. And so that versioning came into account, and things like that are part of that prompt designer. So we got more and more sophisticated after producing, hundreds, if not thousands of prompts for all kinds of situations, actually more than like thousands. One of our system, as I said, is alone 112, right, Christian? You know better than I. And so we did all these kind of things to make sure that it worked for us, building complex or sophisticated prompts connected with each other and so on. All right. And then when we push the prompt out, either to a platform that we are now having, which we didn't have in the past, or we didn't need it, or actually to a user, then we send out, and this is the deployment part on the next screen. When we send it out to a user, then the user gets a URL, and everything in that URL is basically constructed and created by the GPTBlue system or by BlueCallom. And the user, if it's a registered user, finds himself or herself. On the left side, the number 2 here, is a list of prompts he or she actually was already using and maintaining. But on the core is on the upper right-hand side, is basically the field where the prompt can be entered from her or him to say, okay, I want a business plan for marketing. This is all it needs. But if this is within a company and the company said, okay, our marketing people will want these business plans, they do it monthly or for every campaign, a new one or whatever. We put everything they need to say to the AI to make this perfect plan for us as a company. And so the marketing manager just says, give me that plan, so to speak, and a plan comes out in the perfect way. And this will be seen on this fourth field. So as you can see already, there is one field that is critical to fill out, and there is the field where content comes out, and the rest is lofty space. Again, we don't need navigation other than what would he or she in this case do? Well, maybe another prompt, and she has the list of other prompts. That's what she needs the navigation for, but it's not a navigation. It's basically part of the workflow. And so this UI we will see on January 29, in case you come to the bootcamp or the official launch. And I don't have a slide for our launch plan, but the official launch will be on February 8, where we're having a booth at World AI and Cannes, France. So if you can come down, that would be cool. And you will see it in full action. And from thereafter, you can obviously you can register and start right away. Okay. So then there is a last part of this prompt part, so to speak, and this is about neural AI fusion. It's a term that we created when we realized that we need to be very careful with prompting, understanding what the brain actually does, wants, and needs, and how it works. And by the way, our company name, BlueCallom, comes from blue, the technology, and the column, the short form of the corpus callosum, the thing that connects the two brain halves, left and right, creativity and rationality. And there's a thing that is interesting, even though there's a debate that under neuroscientists where this is really that kind of a distinction. Some say it isn't, others says, well, even if it isn't, the brain makes it so that it works that way. But the interesting thing is that these two brain halves have two very different fundamental structures. One is the emotional part, and we associate creativity with the emotional part. And the emotional part has no access to words and numbers. It is purely emotional. And this is basically a chemical process in our brain. While the other side is a more rational part and deals with numbers and words. And words, we understood, is the most powerful way to communicate with each other. There's a saying, a picture is more worth than 1,000 words. Yep, it helps a lot to understand a situation, but you still need words because otherwise you interpret the pictures maybe in the wrong way. On the right-hand side, you see one of those neurons with those dendrites to connect with other neurons and building or having axons in between and so on. Somebody could say, yeah, I've seen something similar. I thought these are viruses. You know, very fundamentally different things. I mean, maybe not fundamentally that different, but very different things. But with, if I say this is a neuron, it triggers another action in your mind or a search in your mind, whether when I say this is a virus. And so we realized that there is a way to get actually directly into your brain wirelessly. And this may be a shocking, announcement that we can do that. But it's even more shocking that you already know that and you already do it every day. The direct connection to your brain is what I tell you and you listen. If I ask you, think of a situation in your business life where something like the sort of the announcement of AI had a similar kind of feeling in your mind, then you look and you do this maybe right now. So think about it for a second. So what I did just now in this second, I triggered your brain to do something even without needing to ask you. And that's the brutality of a realization that we're confronted since thousands of years. Because this is how propaganda is done. This is how wars are enabled. This is how advertising is done, is speaking directly to your brain, whether you like it or not. Now, we took this understanding and implemented in our system in a way that the output of an AI need to talk to our brain, because this is all we do. And the way it does it, we read text. And the only other way it does is we hear it when we have like our mentor who talks to us as part of the BlueCallom system. So we have two wireless connections: light waves, the eye, we see what's on the screen, and the ear when something is talking to us. And the other wireless connections is our keyboard, sending it to you when we have to write something, or basically, again, the acoustic waves from our voice. This is neural AI fusion. We actually get to the brain back and forth. And if you begin to learn more about neuroscience, then you will write your prompts more and more diligently towards, is this what the computer understands? And if the computer would be a human, would this human understand? And here comes another interesting learning. Both neural networks, our brain and the artificial neural networks, are structured extremely similarly. Now, we can say, okay, so really the AI is as clever as our brain. That is a definite no. Our brain is by order of magnitude, I mean, not just double and 10 times and more, it's way more than that intelligent than any AI which we will see in the next 5 to 10 years. Because we have things in our brain, I mean, that we don't even think about. But this is there. I mean, if you have kids or grandkids and you observe them by doing something, you sit with the little babies, maybe 2 years old, still kind of babies, and you try to tell them this is a dog, and this is a cat, and this is an elephant. And you do this 5, 3, 6 times, and you go with the kid to the zoo, and they see elephant. I mean, how cool is that? We train an AI system, I mean, 1,000,000 times to understand that this is an elephant, and in the background, the cat is not seen by the AI, unless we have an even more complex algorithm to also find the cat. But the kid finds the cat immediately. So we have things in our brain that is far beyond belief, because we don't even know. I mean, even neuroscientists don't know. And so there's a lot of power. But if we use the brain as the receiver when we write a prompt, not an AI, it helps us a lot, saying, you know, would my wife, would my grandma, would my kid understand that? No, maybe not. So maybe I need to do it this way or that way. And this is, for some people, this is a tedious work, and for other people, this is fun. And the other people who have fun will become very good prompt engineers and help those who find it boring, and, you know, put them together. So it's a clear win. So neuroscience and prompting is really a key that we have to rationalize. It's not that I'm saying you need to be a neuroscientist. Absolutely not. But this is still very interesting. So I think we lost the presentation. I still see Christian moving, so that means we're still online. I don't know what happened to Tanya. Let's see, what can we do? I mean, we could possibly, I'll just prepare myself for, let's see, where's marketing? Sorry about that. What I can do is, believe I can, are we back, by the way? No?
I'm trying to connect to Tanya to see. Sorry for that. Might be they have some issues. Are you in the office with her?
Okay. Are you or no?
No,
What's the question? No, I'm not.
Oh. So maybe they have some issues with the internet in the office.
Let me see. Christian, do you have, because you have probably the presentation with the changes on it that you did? Can you share your screen?
I'm trying to do that quickly.
Sorry, guys. You know, we have AI and we have unbelievable technology, but there are a couple things that still are wonders is online communication. Sometimes, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? No, I can't. And I think probably the worst is still the remote control and some washing machines. So maybe I'll just keep walking, so to speak, in terms of our presentation.
So Tanya got kicked out for whatever reason. There's no internet in the office at the moment. Sorry for that.
Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry for that. I don't know. Do you know where on Drive the presentation is?
I'm just trying to find it while I quickly also want to share with people. I mean, what we have done quite now a set of information we have been sharing. And I think it's important for everybody on the call to understand why these skills are so important. Prompt engineering is a new profession that really involves optimizing textual input, as Axel has said, to effectively communicate with the large language models. And in a way, you're turning English into a new computer language. And that is also very unique. And that is also the reason why AI and machine learning specialists are the people who are the group of the fastest growing jobs. So you already can see in 2023, not more than 1 year after ChatGPT 3.5, I think, was made public, the prompt engineers are the world's fastest growing job group. And I think as you all are in jobs that are evolving, changing, that is important to recognize. With that, of course, there's a high demand as many companies identified opportunities from that space. And prompt engineering will be an opportunity to secure an interesting job in the future. It also will have a huge impact on work. We talked about how the industries are adapting to it. And Axel talked about how language is a key element of the way we are working. It makes up to 62%, if I remember the number correctly, of the total time employees work. So meetings, exchanging ideas, a lot of that is done through language. And the estimates by McKinsey, if I remember correctly, is that 2/3 of this is fit to be more productively and augmented and executed, therefore faster. So with that, I strongly believe that the economic potential of prompt engineering for you is significant. There's a high demand, the field is growing, and with that, you can also expect that these will be the high-paying jobs of the future, while other high-paying jobs of today are going to be changed or eliminated. So we really would like you to consider that and feel invited to join us on that journey going forward.
Are you sharing that screen, Christian?
I'm trying, but I'm not getting into that part. The moment I try, I'm out of the meeting as well.
No, I see you. And somebody is sharing that screen, which...
I
okay.
am here again. Sorry, the sister kicked me out, so I share the screen. So sorry for this. I don't know what happened.
Okay. So
but are we on the slide 16, right?
Yeah, correct. Can you make it presentation mode?
Yeah, a moment.
So I think, Axel, also we have 18 minutes left and want to give people a chance to ask some questions.
Yeah.
Maybe the last slides we have to be a little bit.
We have to be very quick. Yeah. Can you go to presentation mode, Tanya?
I am on the presentation.
No, you're not. So the next part is basically how to deploy those prompts, and this goes definitely faster anyway. So you see on the little screen, you know, this massive multi-tier structure, and I mean it's just a little screen on this one. I think Tanya will fix it in the next second. And or not? Can you go the next slide at least?
Yeah, a moment.
Otherwise, I share my screen.
That's
okay.
The next slide.
Sorry, guys. So you see only we see only the slide mode. While you fix this, I still continue. So this is a project we're going. It's actually in a real estate environment, and we call it the manufacturer. These are basically the construction builders, the construction companies. Then there are basically high profile investment organizations, and then there's a lot of private investor relations companies or wealth managers, and then there are customers. And in this project, we're working on the scenario where the construction companies trying to basically inform customers that what they do and how they do it and how valuable it is for them. And the customers are not those who want to buy a house or an apartment. They're basically investors in houses and apartments. And so the prompt structure here is a little bit different. It's actually trying to help these investors to see if there is a property available to them that fits their portfolio. And we have about 50 or so big construction companies. So this is a US project. We have one organization that sits between those two. And then there's about 10,000 wealth managers and consultants. And then there's countless number of investors. And so this network is interesting to understand because it works within a company. It could be one company, their countries and their departments and so on. It works outside. It can be even a distributor, for instance, with technology stuff, selling to resellers and to end users and so forth. So this is a scenario that is working on our platform. And this is where commercialization comes in. Can you go to the next slide, please? And commercialization comes in when these different people have different but related prompts. So the manufacturer maybe want AI adoption plan as to start with. And then there might be research of any kind. There might be marketing plans. I mean, everything they want, but partly also customer partner onboarding. So they want to onboard partners or customers. They want to manage something on the supply chain. They use HR, and the same then on the distribution part in the middle. We're sitting basically between the construction and the wealth managers or resellers or whatever the structure is. There's social media prompts and rapid partner promotions. So this goes down back to the partners, but maybe also gives some insight to the manufacturers. Then those networks are not easy to build, but we have done it already in the past. Tanya, can't you go to the presentation mode? Isn't that working?
I have to stop it first.
Okay, wow. Okay, why is that?
I don't know.
Okay, so leave it as is. So otherwise we lose too much time.
Fine.
Can you go to the next slide, please? So we have that there's one, I just want to share one of these case studies that shows where, again, productivity can actually end up. So this is an organization, like I said, it links basically 75 vendors with about 50 distributors, 40,000 resellers, 400,000 salespeople. So it's on average 10 salespeople per reseller, and about 100 million customers that are served by these 400,000 salespeople. So the AI's role in this interesting game is basically to enhance the efficiency of everybody in this chain, and optimizing and driving basically a significant gain for everybody. Now, the interesting thing is, so what we did, and this was basically from whoever basically was the owner of this project, they said, okay, can we calculate the gain? I mean, we know there's an interesting gain for everybody, but what would the whole project be gaining? And in this particular one, it's one project, it's all prompts. I mean, hundreds of prompts, but it would be a $2 billion annual gain. So this is now a number I thought I have to share because it's just too cool. Obviously, it's not for one who runs this, because it's for 40,000 companies, these resellers who gain. And these resellers gain not only from one distributor, but from 50 distributors who they buy stuff from, and even from those who are not part of this system. The vendors gain and the salespeople gain. I mean, that's the biggest gain. And you can imagine if these 400,000 salespeople only gain worth of $1,000, well, we're already in the billions, right? And I think in this case, we calculate even just 500. What I'm saying is, when you run into a larger organization structures, AI becomes almost incredible. I mean, incredible in the form of, this is not credible anymore. This can be kind of dimensions. Okay, can you go further? So now, if we go to the next step, commercializing those prompts, we'll find a couple of interesting things. Tanya?
Yeah.
And this is the business model. So you will find sooner or later, I mean, you wouldn't find anything, I have to say this, on our website yet, because the announcement is on the 29th. But there's a couple of interesting things. So there is an initial budget we're working with when we work with customers, larger customers, to help them get going. So this is an exception. Typically, people can just go onto the system and start. And we do not charge for the numbers of users. This is one way to win that project, because they could have, as I said, 40,000 or 400,000 users on it and don't have to calculate how much would this cost. It doesn't cost anything. We do not charge for any kind of partner or vendor. We do not charge for the development system, and we do not charge for prompt generation. Everything is free. Now, this looks like, oh, come on, give me a break. I mean, how do you make money? Well, we do make money, of course, and we don't hide it. What we do is we charge, after this pay per use model, we charge basically 5 cents to 20 cents. It may be 3 cents or even 1 cent. I think we had tried to get down to 1 cent once. It can also be $1,000 if there is somebody out there and says, you know, this prompt, just this one prompt, helps companies to actually gain, I mean, millions. And we have one prompt created that creates one prompt, I said earlier, that creates actually a gain of millions. So it was a long and hard to develop prompt, and we would not sell it for 20 cents, of course. But the classic way right now is in this neighborhood. And then there will be maybe consulting hours. So now if we look at the 5 to 20 cents, then you say, come on, I don't create prompts for that money. I mean, I will never get anywhere. I can tell you, and you should go actually, if you want to learn more about prompting in general, go to Udemy. There are prompt engineering courses. There is a course that I actually did myself because I just had to find out. I couldn't believe it. It's 28 lessons. It's a total of about 20 hours of training, and it costs $6.99. I mean, you would say, come on, what is this? I can tell you what it is. This is the new generative AI economy. These guys had 40,000 people who used their training. And if you divide it, multiply it by 10, this is $400,000 a year. I mean, I know universities, how they struggle to get to that number. And they did it with $10 trainings. Yes, they did, because it's the gigantic mass. And we have already billions of prompts in the world, billions. And if you type a billion times 10 cents, you end up with 100 million. Not a bad idea, right? We need to think in the same problematic thinking like in 2000, when was it? I believe it was 2004 or so, when the first iPhone came out. And the iPhone apps were sold for $1 and $2 and $5. And I myself, even, I have to admit, I thought this is the dumbest thing ever. I mean, what can you actually do for building a $5 application? Well, I know actually a couple of guys. I mean, this is, fast forward 10 years, who are millionaires from $5 applications. This is a new economy, and the economy is gigantically big, and we're rushing like crazy. Even me, people say, why don't you even work? I mean, why don't you go sailing? Well, this is too cool to do, to not do. And who is on this right now will basically have that same head start like anybody else. Okay. So the business model is everything is free, only pay per use. Tanya. So what's in for you is basically learn a new skill, identify problems, develop your experience, and other. I mean, is this your screen, Christian?
Yes.
Mine.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking. I didn't do that.
No, exactly what you were saying before. It's to summarize how people can move forward in that world.
Yeah.
With learning a new skill, that's the beginning. You start in your corporate environment to see what are the problems, or you look outside. Of course, you won't solve the biggest problems just from scratch. You really further develop your expertise together with us. I mean, that's really close to our heart to make you successful. And then the question is, do you offer the services in your company? You're the multiplier for your corporation to make that happen, or you offer the service as a business you are ready to found and incorporate. Axel, are you muted?
Okay, sorry. One way to go forward, obviously, on the sales side is also interesting to understand. We cannot sell individually to anybody $5 products. That's not working. So what we do, all of us in this space, we need to basically take care of a structure that is super easy for the user to do whatever they want with or without you. So what we did, and this is something you will also see in our onboarding of partners, basically use AI wherever you can. This doesn't mean, hey, we automate our sales, not at all. I mean, company like ours, we're on the orthogonal side of this. We want and we enjoy the relationship with customers. But the pitching and the doing and the fighting and is this really, does he say this, does he mean that, what did I understand? We try to avoid this and actually have more a pleasant relationship with somebody, and also delegate that to an AI, and that's one of the structures. Can you go on? And as I said, you will see it more and more often in the future. So we give people, as soon as we're ready, this is January 29, I say it again, unrestricted access to GPTBlue. It doesn't cost anything at all anyway. So there's no, okay, how do we do that? Then you as a customer or as a partner, you can run, try. And in order to try, you probably run into this question, what is it what I should try? And even there, a couple of prompts and the AI can help you, guide you through the process. Can you also guide you through the process of a launch? How would this be if I want to launch it? And whether a partner of an organization or a partner of ours or somebody who does this within the company can basically test out how would this work, how would it take, how much people would I need, and you will be surprised when you run the prompts how little it is that you need, because things are just 100 or 200. I don't think it's maybe 500 million users on GPT. Nobody has probably called you from OpenAI to use it. Nobody has told you to buy it. Nobody has done any training for you. You did it all yourself, and another 500 million used it the same, right? Okay. So when we look into partnering with BlueCallom, there's a couple of things I want to share with you. One is partnering is in our DNA. Whoever looked at the founders' background, we built large partner networks that was the success not only of us but of thousands of partners. We provide free tools, free training, and then there's something this made our success already several years ago. We never compete with our partners, and we put it even into contract. All the partner contracts we have is a non-compete contract. We will never compete with your customers, with you on your customers. We rather help you fix things if it goes wrong, rather than saying, oh, okay, we'll take it over ourselves. We would not. This is just sort of even down in writing, right? So if you want to work with us, I think that would be probably the last and final suggestion, Tanya, if you can, and on January 29, you will, if you want to, you just let us know. There's a registration page on our website, but I don't want to sell this to you now. But if you're interested, simply go on, look for the partner section once it's live, and then you run your own prompts to see whether this is actually cool for you or not. Okay. Then the takeaway, Tanya. A couple things, the future of prompting. I think you got sort of a little bit of an idea where you're going with this. High performance and high productivity prompts. This is the future. It isn't, selling more and more prompts on Etsy, 2 lines or 5 lines, and you get 10,000 prompts for $5.95, and you send out basically a PDF, and people then can cut and paste. That's definitely not the future. Recurring revenue is the future. So this is still one of the biggest problems. We haven't really addressed it in details. We do another webinar for prompts for partners, but every prompt that is used over and over and over again is used in our platform with all the facilities that we are offering. And here comes the recurring revenue also for partners. Deployment for corporations. You've seen the network, and it works for corporations, but it also would work for trade networks, or you may come up with other things. And building the future of prompting is basically, leverage the domain expertise that you have, and that's something I really want to almost finish to. There's one more slide, but when you heard Christian talking about the proteins. He's a chemist. He comes from that space. He's not a technologist, even though he's with us now at BlueCallom, because he got this extremely fast. And okay, but now I put my domain expertise in it. And if you have domain expertise from whatever it is, as long as there is another human or another group of humans who are in that space, you can help them more than by becoming a technologist. And this is the future of AI in general. The future of AI is domain expertise extending to the max to as many as possible humans who need and want it. And we grow actually all together. And the pennies and cents for prompts is the key currency for knowledge distribution. This is basically where we are all at a very beginning right now. But this is how humanity will expand through that. And the last thing is, this is now a little advertising. So on January 29, we have a boot camp where we talk about everything about, the inner workings. I mean, not just this is how AI works. Most of you know, but the inner workings of a large language model so that you can build better prompts to address that large language model. We will do hands-on professional prompting. So you will experience prompts. I mean, you will get your own system access and obviously free. And then ways to leverage the data that you may have and learn about all these variations. And we will also have a little bit of perspective out in the future where we share where we see this industry going. And I mean, the prompt industry or the AI industry, or whatever we really call it, I don't know what will be the outcome. But in the next 12 months, we see already from what we know, what people develop on the large language model side, on the AI side, so we can kind of predict 12 months. I mean, earlier I would have said, we can easily predict 5 to 10 years when we know what people develop today, which will be mainstream in 5 to 10 years. But also that time frame has collapsed. So we can probably look into, at best into 2 to 3 years. and beyond that, nope. All right. So yeah, let's set it in motion, and we have still let this Tanya. We still have a few minutes for questions, or don't we? At least we will be here for questions. Let's say so. We still have 75% of the attendees there. So, Tanya, are there any questions?
Yeah. I do have a few questions, but I'm not sure who can answer it. Maybe both of you, and maybe we can hear like the different answers. That also works, right? So,
Okay.
The first question, is the generative AI hype not only a bubble?
Okay, I don't know what the difference between the bubble and the hype is, but yeah, absolutely, it's a hype. And a hype is, depending on how you interpret that word, this is when something rather quickly goes up through the roof. And the bubble is if it creates a new arena, and it does. The thing is there a bubble burst? Is the hype, extending the bubble, then it bursts. And we have an extreme high growth rate, more than anything. It grows faster than the internet, grows faster than social media, grows faster than the computer, and so on. Will it collapse? No, it will not collapse. The internet didn't collapse. The biggest thing in 2001 was not an internet crash. It was an investor crash. And that was severe. And there were even people killed themselves because they risked everything and were left with nothing. The internet, grew continuously. You almost didn't even notice it when you look at the growth curve. So is there a financial risk in investing gigantic numbers into all these companies? Yeah, absolutely. But is there a risk that AI goes away? There's always a risk. The question is how big it is. And I personally would say, I'm very agnostic to these thoughts and so on. I see the potential. I see the gain already. So I don't see that this is going to go away. Christian, you have maybe a different perspective.
No, I think the moment people have seen and recognized what can be done and how it supports you to become stronger, faster, they don't want to push the genie back into the bottle. They want to use the capabilities of large language models and accelerate and grow with it. So I'm fully with you when it comes to the assessment of what's happening potentially in the financial market. Everybody wants to be part of it and wants to create the next big thing. They are used to lose and win, so they will survive also. And I think we will see a repetition what we have seen when the internet became visible and started to be used, but some ups and downs, but at the end, the direction will be positive.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next question then. The next question is, how can you measure success of generative AI usage?
Okay, that's a good question. I alluded to a little bit. So, but the direct answer is we know how fast a prompt can get. We know the average time it takes to actually fill in that line with some maybe more specific questions or situations and so on. So people typically need about a minute to think through that, sometimes maybe even 5 or 10. This is also okay. And for most prompts, and this is something that is critical to understand, for most prompts, we don't know today what was actually time people needed to have or to consume in order to get to the same result. So we do know a lot because we had actually an application, still have it, of course, where we know what it took us to do the job before we actually implemented generative AI. So we have these data, and we use these data right now to make an initial projection, but it's just a projection. For the next couple months, the data that we will provide for each prompt, and also our partners who develop prompts on the platform will basically try their best estimate what it has taken or what it would take an average user to make this manually. And then the users are incentivized to actually put in what they think or what they know what it took to make this manually and what is the gain. And I would say by mid-year, we'll probably have thousands of these feedbacks from users, so that we can relatively confident say, okay, this is a 10x or 100 or 1000x increase in productivity, simply the time used for sort of the same result, even if this result might be better or not quite as good, but these are most likely marginal effects. Yeah. So this will be the productivity gain in a number percentage of comparing one with the other. That would be the most important KPI for, I would say, the AI industry when it comes to commercial prompts.
Absolutely.
Okay. Christian, would you like to add something?
No, I mean, spot on.
Okay. And just the last question, please. How would you approach a value vs risk assessment when implementing generative AI solutions?
That's an interesting, it's a cool and rightful question. It's also a difficult one to answer. I mean, the what you put into an AI system is valuable or not. It can be critical or not. It can be harmful or not. So these two things are maybe, one is putting something into it that may not be good. The other is somebody may get something out believing this is all accurate and is completely BS. And so in two environments that we're in company environments, it makes sense to define some ruling without making it too bureaucracy and too, over controlling things. But this is a ruling system within a company. In a ruling system for an organization or for a society, it's much more difficult. And there are two organizations, and
probably down the road there will be more, but there are two organizations in our case that need to work on that. One is the large language model provider. In our case, it's OpenAI, and they do a lot to validate prompts, and they do this very quickly. And we actually ran some tests, so we understand that they do. Now, also we can do that, and we do that. So prompts that go into GPTBlue can be, even before they are hitting sort of the world, could be tested. We're working on a couple theories right now, I have to say. We will also work on some models that test, and this is the same problem that OpenAI has. There is a risk that a prompt goes out once, and it's actually just not appropriate, let's say so. But as soon as it goes out, it runs through the system, and then the system can stop that type of prompt. So I myself did a prompt. I wanted to see if I can check when we hire people and see their profile on LinkedIn and match it with the CV they sent us if there is a discrepancy. I did that, and it worked brilliantly on the first run. The second person I tested, OpenAI came back and said, "Sorry, this goes too far. This is private data. We won't let this prompt run." Okay, fair. So I could run it once, so still no harm, so to speak. And what this means is that there is the risk that a prompt goes out once until it's caught. And I think both OpenAI and we are working on ways to prevent even that. But the real risk of AI, where the biggest fear is, and rightfully, is when an AI system is connected to a machine. And this is not what we or you here on as an audience most likely do. There is a risk that even generative AI can get into that risk field with the so-called custom, the custom scripts, where you actually use code. This code could actually drive a robot, and that robot can do some harmful things. There's another risk, which is much easier to control, is propaganda, anti-social, and I mean all these kind of things. And this is OpenAI's job, kind of first, because they're sitting right on the distribution of the return that we get from the API, and they do a lot there. Now there is another risk, and this is something is argued or discussed right now. So there's the voting and the election in the US right now, and OpenAI put measures in place to not influence the election. But there's the question then, well, if I say, well, we should definitely not vote for, Joe Doe, whoever, Frank Soto and so, is this an influence that should be prevented, or is that free speech? And so we walk a very fine line in general, and this is not really AI, but AI amplifies it even on the social media side. And we're walking that fine line on our cultural behavior, on our ruling, on our ethics, and AI isn't harming it. AI is only amplifying it, possibly, or making it easier for those who want to harm it. There's one effort and I think very, very well structured request to the governments. If there is something that is in the end illegal, there needs to be a very clear structure saying, okay, if somebody does this that harms an entire society, and it's illegal, and we have a law saying that it's illegal and we all agree to that law, well, then put them behind bars or whatever the measure is. But the weakness is not the AI or social media or the media that we have in general, because the same weakness is also on mainstream media, that it gets influence and so on. The weakness is in our social structure, that we have basically outgrown wire speed our social structures. And I think there is some work to be done, because next year and 10 years or 5 years, some other technology comes out makes things even better, faster, more robust. If there is harm to be done, and there is always people who want to make harm, we need to be faster also on the legal side and our basically models.
Okay, thank you, Axel. I just got one more question for the audience. Can you just quickly answer it, please? I know it's 10:48 here in Zurich, but yeah, let's answer all the questions we are getting. So, what does continuous prompt maintenance entail, and how do you ensure the prompts remain effective over time to cover emerging technologies?
That's a good question. And this is a question I try to answer very quickly. Nobody knows right now exactly. And that's sort of the bad news. The good news is we all learn from what we're doing. But by asking for prompt maintenance, I mean, look, is the prompt that has been written, is this been liked? Is there comment? Is there feedback? Contact the users who use the prompt, whether they like it or not, what is missing, and so on. I mean, the very same dialogue then technically with all products. Find out whether this is a beneficial one or whether people just tried it out, and then maintain it, develop it further. Prompts become, products. And even in our own internal system, we now speak from products versus prompts, because they will grow, like mad in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Christian, would you like to add anything?
Fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Then let me just go to the next slide. Axel, something for the end?
We don't need the other two slides. This was just backup slides.
Okay, then. Anything for the end? Do you want to say, mention, add, Axel and Christian?
I think we mentioned that it's an amazing journey that has begun, I think, with making GPT 3.5 public. Mm-hmm. AI was existing before, large language models were existing, prompting as part of NLP was existing, but now it's arrived in the mainstream. We all can participate, and I think it's really, again, super exciting times to be part of that journey. And with BlueCallom, we want to support you. And Axel, with your background and your history in the IT world, I think you even are more excited than I am.
Indeed, I am. I have to admit, so I was working on the very first artificial neural network, and this was ELIZA, and this was back in, I don't want to even say when it was, back in the late 70s. And I said, well, I really want to work on, until I realized that it was, it worked, it was a neural network, but it was actually not capable of doing anything major. And as most of you know, 10 years after, I retired basically and did a lot of startup things, we came back because it was back then, it was my dream to make something with that this will be ever coming true. I couldn't even imagine, I have to say, but yeah, it's an extreme ride, and I think everybody who wants to get into that space, who is here probably because you like it too, go for it. There is so much to do, and why not? There's always the question, why not? No, thank you very much from my side. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm still seeing friends from Australia. You're really, really brave people hanging in there. Probably it's more than way after midnight, I believe. I also see there's still, I think, 1 or 2 actually from, oh wow, yeah, 2 at least from Southeast Asia, and obviously a couple more from Europe. So thank you very much. Maybe we see each other on the boot camp. I can only say, join it. I mean, we drove the cost down to next to nothing. We just want to make sure that people are really interested, and it will be fully online. So wherever you are, you can do it. Unfortunately, for those Australians or Southeast Asians, it's a bit late, but we compressed it, so we're finished at 3 o'clock our time, which I believe is still very late at night. But everybody else, come join us, and those who can come to Cannes here in France, not here, over there in France. It will be probably a fantastic show. 16,000 people are expected. It's already considered it didn't even start yet. Probably the 3rd largest or even the largest, nobody knows exactly, AI show in Europe. Has obviously to do with the phenomenal growth of OpenAI. The show last year was 5,000, and before that was 2 or something. And the registrations indicate it will be 16,000 this year, and we're feverishly working on doing a perfect job there, so we could meet all there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all from my side. So much.
Yeah. Let me just say thank you to everyone, our attendees, our speakers, and once again, I apologize for the technical issues when I was vanished for a couple of seconds. But I believe you managed to have everything, and yeah, I can just say it was a great session, very educational and inspiring. And see you in the next BlueCallom online event, or maybe even in Cannes in person. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.